everybody. My name is Michele Simons, and I am the prevention coordinator for the City of Lynn. So we're here with Leandra and Dana and some of the women from Girls Inc. So we're kicking off our Drug Facts Week, a little project that we've been working on with Prevention Works. Unfortunately, our coworker Emily Hatchwell is not going to be able to be with us as she's still actually working at City Hall. So some of the work we do is just to pass on information about the risks of prescription drugs and street drugs. And we work with youth, and we also work with tips for parents and folks in the community of how to handle substance use in their area or if it's something in their home. We offer all types of resources, whether it's recovery resources, treatment resources, or just basic prevention resources. So you can find us at preventionworks.com, and it's Prevention Works, WERKS. And we also have a Facebook page through the City of Lynn, which is also called Prevention Works. So feel free to reach out to us there anytime, and we're always happy to help or offer any of the free information that we have in our resources. So with that, I'm going to pass this on to Dana and Leandra.
Thank you so much, Michele. It's so great to have you be with us today. This is awesome. So as Michele said, my name is Dana Altman. I am the community coordinator of substance use prevention at Girls Inc. Today we have our POS advisor and the part of the solution, POS, peer leaders here today. They have all been working really hard on doing something called POS reviews. So the part of the solution, peer leader reviews. This means that every week, these girls, Leandra and I, have had the opportunity to watch the same documentary or same piece of media, discuss it. Usually Fridays is when we have the opportunity to have a discussion. So we're really grateful to be recording it and hopefully inspire you all who are watching to watch the same documentary, the same pieces, so we can have a even broader conversation, maybe in the comments or in the community. This past week, the girls, Leandra and I, and Michele, have had the opportunity to watch the music videos associated with 3, the album by the Lumineers, which is all about addiction. The girls have also had the opportunity to watch both The 13th and Heroin on Netflix. So I'm going to pass it on to Leandra, who is going to facilitate the discussion with the girls, and we hope that you find this helpful. As I said, this the album is based around addiction, so and the 13th and Heroin are as well. So we look forward to discussing this with you. Leandra, take it away.
Awesome, thank you. As Dana and Michele had said, I'm Leandra. I'm the POS advisor at Girls Inc. of Lynn. And yeah, we've been watching these music videos for the past week and watching some documentaries. So we have a few questions that we're going to discuss based on all 3 and kind of connect all 3 and see the similarities and differences between these 3 types of media and how they portray addiction. So I'm going to start with the first question. So girls, were you surprised to see a woman portrayed as the addict in the first chapter of the Lumineers music videos? Jojo?
I personally wasn't surprised, but I also, in the back of my mind, I was thinking that addiction shouldn't have like a set gender or a race behind it. It should just be viewed as addiction and only as addiction, because addiction does not discriminate. It takes who it takes, and I feel like it should just be viewed as a health crisis rather than a person.
Great. Awesome. See another raised hand.
So I wasn't surprised, and that was mainly because, like, I agree with Jojo. I don't see addiction as like a certain race or gender has to like be dealing with it. I see like it could be to anyone, and like I wasn't expecting, like, because of that, I wasn't expecting to see a certain person like appear on the screen.
Awesome. Thank you. Gabby, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I did, but Elvira and Jojo cleared it up pretty good.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. In the video for Gloria, there's a lyric that says, "Gloria, will you just decide?" This is something that we had discussed and how it kind of it hits hard for us all. And why do you think why do you think people think it's that easy to just decide to get clean and not use drugs anymore? Tofika?
Um, so when I was looking at like that line, it really just made me angry to think that like people think that it's like an easy decision that can just be made, because like they don't really realize like the impact addiction has on like the person's mind and like their actions. So it's not as easy. Like it's not, I don't know how to put it, but like it's not easy as said and done. Like you can't just say, oh, like if a person's heart isn't there, like you can't force that. Like you can't just say, oh, they have to decide it right away. And like in connection to like heroin and like the documentary The 13th, like it was all about policies and like people for like trying to sort of like get people to decide, while and it's like shows like two different perspectives of that. Like in heroin, it talked more about how like they sort of like nudge people in the right direction, sort of like letting them, like giving them the opportunity to decide whether they want to like sober up and like do better for themselves, even if that meant like saving them 20 times. But in like 13th, it showed how like they didn't really want to give people the chance to do, like the criminal justice system didn't want to give people that chance, and they were just throwing them in jail thinking that it would help, even though it in reality it just made the problem worse.
Great. Thank you. Iwanosa?
Okay. I definitely agree, but I was just gonna say that when people say or think that, they definitely forget to realize that addiction is not something that you can stop in one day, and they fail to realize that it's a disease. It's like saying Leandra said the other day, it's like telling someone with cancer, like, can you just stop? Can you just stop having cancer? That's not possible, right? So I feel like people fail to realize that addiction is not it should not be seen as a crime. It should be seen as a health crisis, just like Jojo said.
Awesome. Anyone else have anything to say with that? Gabby?
I think it's really hard to like put ourselves in each other's shoes, because like some of us like don't know what it is to like battle addiction, and like we just automatically assume that it's so easy, like that it's a choice, as Iwanosa and Tofika said, and it's really not. It's a disease, and as Iwanosa said, it should be viewed as a health crisis instead of being viewed as something that can be turned off like this. It can't. And like I've been guilty of thinking, oh, why can't they just stop, stuff like that. But like what I should have been focusing on more instead of judging quickly was that, oh, there's factors that place into this, and it's actually much deeper, much more complicated than it is.
Yeah. Michele, saw your hand.
Yeah, I agree with everyone, and like Tofika said, it's easier said than done. And it's like, you don't know how long they've been battling with addiction, and it's like just smoking like cigarettes. Like if someone's been doing that for like multiple years, you can't just like stop, like Gabby said.
Yeah. Michele, I see your hand raised.
Hi. Yeah, it's amazing to hear all you guys talk about the compassionate side of it. It's very true. It's really hard to stop. A lot of time, I'm a person in recovery. I got clean back in December of 2000. And heroin was my drug of choice. And there were times that I really wanted to stop, and I just couldn't. So it's really cool to see you guys taking such a compassionate approach to it. The other side of it is, it's really hard to take a compassionate approach when it's somebody in our own family. And that's where I think is the hardest. If somebody's dealing with either a parent or a sibling, it's hard to have that sort of detached. When you watch a video or something, you're like, oh, I see how much she's struggling. I get it. But then we have like a sister or a brother or a parent, and it's like we say like the addiction isn't just like a disease that affects one person. It affects the entire family. So when you find your phone missing and you find your jewelry missing or your money missing and it's in the home, then this is so emotionally charged and so difficult to take that compassionate approach. But it's so good that, everybody's kind of seeing it from a distance to be able to see how hard it can be for the person struggling as well, but also for the family members that have to deal with it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think also just going off of that from a personal standpoint too, I had talked to the girls and Dana the other day about this, but I do have, a family member who is an addict, and it's hard to, like you said, separate that. And when it's someone in your own family, it is so difficult to put the emotions away and realize that it's not so easy, and it takes a long time to get to that point where you can say it's not an easy decision for them to make, and it's not going to happen overnight. So yeah, I just totally agree with everything you've said. Jojo?
I also wanted to say that with someone dealing with addiction, you shouldn't have to be on your terms. It should be on their terms and when they feel like they need the help. Because when you're seeing me, I do have someone in my family dealing with it, and it's really hard for me to see that they're going through it. So I tried to give them space and them to think about what they're doing and give them the space to think. They're like, oh yeah, maybe I do need help. Maybe I have family members that care about me, and I feel like more people should see that it shouldn't be on your terms, it should be on their terms.
Yeah, definitely. Dana?
I don't know how to use the Zoom raise hand, so I figured I would just raise my hand. I just wanted to say, so being a big Lumineers fan, I've had the opportunity to watch a lot of their videos, like making of the videos, and their Tiny Desk concert on NPR, which I totally recommend if anyone hasn't seen it yet. But in the Tiny Desk concert, the main singer says when he and the band embarked on this journey, they thought it was gonna be really isolating and that it would be really polarizing. They didn't think that they were worried that people wouldn't listen to the music, they wouldn't connect with it. And they said it's been the exact opposite. And I think that's really seen in our conversation today, that there are so many people who can relate, who have people in their family, friends, they know someone, maybe they are someone. So it's so important that we are having those conversations, and I appreciate everyone sharing. I think it's very brave. And I think to the Lumineers point, it isn't polarizing, it's actually bringing people together. And by putting that really difficult experience in the light, it makes other people feel less alone. So I appreciate everyone talking today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Iwanosa?
Okay, so I have 2 points. My first point was when Gabby said that there are definitely factors that implement people's decision and people's, whatever they go through. And I feel like that's also hard because people just feel like the world is either this or that, and that's not how it works, because there's this whole middle part that is so different, and you don't even we don't understand, and it's difficult for people to see that. And then secondly, I was gonna slide into maybe the next question or something. When Michele said that addiction is a disease that not only affects one person, it actually affects a lot of people. So I saw that in Gloria, and I was like, it was interesting. Well, the whole album, it was interesting because it started from one person, it started from one person, and it went over generations, and that was actually interesting to see that one person started it, and at the end of the day, this happened. So I was just gonna bring that up and see that that is actually true, that one person started, or if one person finds yourself in that situation, it actually affects in the long way.
Yeah, great. Michele, did you want to go?
No, but I will.
You had your hand raised.
No, maybe I hit it by accident, sorry. But yeah, no, it's true. I mean, just like anything, whether it's mental health or addiction or anything a particular family is struggling with, if everybody's in the same household or the same unit, it's like a weird disease, the energy of it just affects everybody, this negativity. And it's Jojo, I think, was talking about a family member and having it be on their terms. when they want to stop. However, like if we're talking like to families, I would just put out there that like families can set their own boundaries. It doesn't mean that we have to be completely railroaded by somebody in active addiction, because it can put us all in a lot of danger if somebody's in a situation where they're living at home with somebody actively using drugs. It brings a lot of danger to the household. So in that case, like some of the stuff we do would be like to support families in decision making and what they decide and what kind of boundaries they decide to set in order to keep everybody safe. So I guess I did have something to say.
Thank you. Thank you all for sharing. So we're going to go into our last question. So thinking about the documentary 13th and the way addiction is portrayed in these music videos, how are drugs and addiction framed differently in white versus Black/brown communities? Gabby?
Okay, so you can see the different communities in each documentary and album. And for example, in the album, you can see like they are battling more with addiction and they are not criminalized compared to 13th, where they speak upon people of color and Black and brown people being criminalized all the time for using any type of drug. And it shows how broken the criminal justice and prison systems are. And like it just really shows how there's lack of resources or more fear in people of color compared to people who are not of color.
Great. Elvira?
Yeah, I was gonna agree with Gabby. In these videos, it kind of shows addiction as more of like a disease and more something like it really shows you how much people can struggle in the battle of addiction. Whereas in 13th, it kind of like viewed Black and brown communities who like battled with addiction as like a crime and a decision. And so it made me kind of wonder if the Sparks family was like people of color, then how they would be treated differently. Like for example, in the song Gloria, when she's rushed to the hospital and she gets to come back pretty soon and like be with her child again. But if she was a person of color, would she have like then faced charges and then be sent to prison for an amount of time, and then who knows what would have happened then.
Yeah, it's very real. Michele?
I was about to raise my hand and you called me. So yeah, just personally experiencing that, like I experienced compassion from the courts and any legal issues I was out in San Francisco using. And my boyfriend at the time was Mexican. And he and I remember at one point, both got arrested for possession of illegal substances, we'll say. And I spent about 8 hours in jail, and he spent a week and a half. And I had more stuff on me than he did. All he had on him actually was a pocket knife and it was like a nothing little Swiss Army knife type of thing. And it just didn't have the right, the screw was loose. So the knife wasn't like properly in the little case. And they put him away for a week because of that. And I was in and out in 8 hours. So that really, I was well aware of the difference of treatment on a personal level. So when I watched 13th, it was no surprise to me. And in the 80s, when the crack epidemic was rampant, they weren't talking about like safe places for somebody to go smoke crack. Like now that we're talking about like safe injection sites and things like that. So very different approach. Unfortunately, this is the country we live in. So that's all.
Thank you. Iwanosa?
Okay. So I was just gonna say that in the Luminous, they definitely portrayed the people suffering with addiction as not as monsters, but as what's the word? As flawed people who actually like need help, right? But in the 13th, they portrayed them as criminals, as people who don't belong to society and people who should be put away or something like that. So I definitely noticed that.
Michaela?
So in the Lumineers, the people were looked at as like it was more as a personal problem, and they focused more on like the serious aspect with like what they were really struggling with and like what led to like the addiction. Whereas in the 13th, it was more as like a crime, like everyone said, and it looked like the people of color were more of the problem rather than the like actual addiction, and they were receiving like less help, and like they had like not as much as like a support system there.
Yeah, definitely. That's great. You want to go again? Changed her mind. Does anyone else want to respond to this or have any last minute comments about any of this? No? You want to go ahead?
Sorry. Okay. So I realized that in the 13th that they were so adamant on creating like policies and things that were gonna put this on people who actually need help away. They came up with like so many unbelievable policies that wanted to so bad put these people away and just get rid of them totally from the society. Like even like with the job, like when you're applying for a job, they ask if you're convicted of felony and all of that stuff. They definitely put those policies in place. I know some of it is for a good cause, but some of it is definitely not. And I was just gonna point that out that it was interesting to see the extent they went to get rid of these people instead of actually giving them help and actually giving them resources to help them. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Any other last minute comments or responses? No? Okay, those are the only questions we have today. Oh, Tofika?
I just wanted to build on to what Ivanosa said and say, like, pretty much, like, I feel like they sort of used drugs, like, well, in the way that the 13th portrays, like, addiction, it's like they sort of used, like, addiction to sort of make it more about them disadvantaging the people who were, like, wait, how do I say this? They're trying to disadvantage the people who of color who were the addicts instead of actually like trying to figure out a way to help them and just to sort of like make the divide in our country larger by using the criminal justice system, even though like that shouldn't have been the case whatsoever.
Yeah, awesome. Well, that's all we have. So thank you all so much for sharing, and you guys were great. And yeah, Dana, Michele, do you have any last words?
Thank you, Michele, for including us in this Drug Facts Week /month project. It's always so special for, I think, all of us as adults to see the girls really taking I guess just synthesizing all of this and hearing their thoughts. I think it's really nice that we get to hear their perspectives. I feel like it's not always heard in the way we make policies or just in general. So I really appreciate it. And Leandra, you did a great job facilitating. This was awesome. Michele, anything else?
Yeah, thanks for having me, you guys. And your name, Part of the Solution, just keeps like sticking in my head because this is how we become part of the solution. We see some of the problems, we see some of the, the injustices and the inequalities, and here's our chance to sort of rise above and become part of that solution, just like your name, which is such a beautiful like vibe to it. I love it. So thank you guys all for having me. I appreciate it. Nice to meet all of you.
Awesome. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.